right, it's jpeg2RAW photo review number 2. And tonight we're joined again by A.D Wheeler, who's going to give us some great feedback. A.D, you did I knew you would. You did a wonderful job last month when we reviewed the May photos, and had some great feedback for us, some things you requested, where, we give you a little bit more information about what we're shooting. I think a few people did. Still something we need to work on. He's not going to critique what you wrote and say your grammar's wrong, or, hey, that's a stupid idea. It just helps in the review process on what your goal was with the image. And, one of the things that we missed, and Gina added afterwards, AD, was when we talked about that one photo of Rose that she had, and we talked about different angles different rows that she could have taken a photo of. The thing that was unique for her for that photo was a rare, I think, orange rose that she rarely has them in her flower bed. And that's why that rose was so specific. And that'd have been great information to have while we were doing it. And Gina did a great job of adding some details this time.
Yeah, I think that that's the thing, right? It doesn't always like a lot of people confuse the whole requesting for a goal means like, well, I didn't plan this. I didn't plan to be here. Or I didn't plan to wait for the light to be here at this right minute. I mean, we love when we can do that. I mean, I sent you a thing last night talking about planning that we're doing for an upcoming shoot. And we're using apps and we're using times of day and all this stuff to make plans. But the fact of the matter is, like, we go to a location and then see what we can photograph usually. There's no real plan, I don't think, right. Unless it's like set up by a photo walk or something like that. But generally, I'll plan to go to an area. And I noticed Jackie Allen asked this of Lisa Speakman the other day. And I just I know people ask this question a lot, and so I thought I'd jump in and answer it. We go and plan shots on locations with, angles and all that kind of stuff? It's very rare that, I'm going to the Grand Canyon, I'm going to shoot exactly this angle right here. Usually we go there, we explore, we see what catches our eye and makes that moment where we pick the camera up and we press the shutter button. And that's what I need to hear as a goal. What made you pick your camera up and take this specific photo? That is such a help when it comes to critiquing, because then I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm actually giving you creative advice that would help you portray the story better from the way that you were trying to capture it. Otherwise, I'm just kind of a talking head, and I can give you technical information and all that stuff all day long, but is that going to help you grow as a creative? And it's not just about photography, it's about creativity all over the place. So yeah, anytime you guys can give me that information, that's always a bonus, and I can go even deeper on the critique for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And hopefully we get better at that, AD, over time. This is a great benefit. If you are a member of our Facebook group or coming through our our website, entering the contest, that's how you get into this thing. And we're going to do them once a month. We have the contest every month. AD will review them. But even if you didn't submit one, watching this and watching his critique of the photos is really helpful. I'm a slow learner, AD, so don't expect me to go from 0 to 50 or 0 to 60 too fast. But every time now when I'm reviewing stuff, I'm thinking, what would AD say? I'm always wrong, but I'm
my
still.
My voice is in another head. Oh boy.
Yep, your voice is in my head. So I'm trying to think like that. I'm thinking about some of the things that you've learned. But so hopefully over time we'll all get better. Of course, if you entered an image, then it's awesome to have feedback about your specific image. That's the best way to do it. So consider coming to our Facebook group. That's the easiest way to enter that, and then you'll get the critique. And it'd be great if you could make the live show, because then there can be some interaction with you as the photographer and AD.
And yourself, mister. Don't count yourself out of this whole thing. You're the one that makes all this happen, and your opinion is welcome too. Jump in there and talk a little bit about what you feel about the image. It always gives me, I can only go from my point of view. So right. That's why that information is important. And yeah, definitely what you said. I'd like to just reiterate on that before we get started. My mentor, Trey Radcliffe, he, when we first started this, he kind of trained us to teach and train others and pass this gift along. And one of the things he said was, it's a long multi-course dinner, creativity is. And so don't sit down with the fast food mentality. It's not going to work out for you. It's not going to come out. This long dinner. Enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Enjoy and submit your images. I mean, man, this is free. That's awesome, right? Totally cool. We like it if if you send us a lot of money, we'd love that, but it's totally free as far as we're concerned. Not going to tell anybody not to send us large checks. I mean, it would be crazy. But it's totally free. And, we're not going to kill you on here. The whole idea here is to create a safe, positive environment for learning. So I was totally blown away. Mike asked me to do this, and this is what this is the philosophy that we teach with at the Arcanum, and things that we can kind of reach out and do these as well. I'd love to be able to do it. So yeah, I'm excited to do this, man. I can't believe it's we're on our second one already. So,
I can't believe it either. I thought it seems like it was just the other day, and I really appreciate this, AD, and hopefully others are getting the value out of it too. So let's go ahead and head into the first image, and we did announce the winner in our Facebook group last night. I won't say who it is just yet. We'll wait till later on. But let's go ahead and go to the first image, and it's by Bruce Lee, and it is a beach shot with 3 rock formations at, I imagine, sunset. It could be sunrise, but
yeah, this is
sunset. He actually had that in his notes.
Yep, he does. I see a silhouette of Haystack Rock at sunset. Haystack is famous. You guys were talking about this a little last night. I tuned into the show and hung out with you guys. Boy. And no, that's okay. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that were talked about then. One of the things was about a crop and changing a little bit. The thing with Haystack is it really is very iconic. And so the way that Bruce shot this, I think, is a very iconic shot. And the best you can do here is add some atmosphere, make sure that your cropping and your framing is right, and then do a nice job processing. I think he got most of that dead on. We got a beautiful sunset going on, beautiful colors. So you're here at the right time of day. You don't have a lot of traffic, which at Haystack, there's always a billion people. I've seen so many photos from this area, and there's always people everywhere. So excellent job again on that. This is not a long exposure shot. So for there not to be a million people there at sunset, wow, good on you. So you got that. The silhouette, love that. Love the colors. They're not overblown. I'm looking at these on a calibrated monitor. They look great. My one suggestion for the whole image it had to do with crop. And I told Mike before we got started tonight's episode is all about that crop, right? So I'm not going to sing any more than that. That's all you get. Sorry, Megan, about that. But yeah, it really comes down to cropping the image. So we're going to do something a little different tonight. I actually got my Lightroom loaded up with these images. Now, I don't have, one of the things I want to tell you guys, I don't have any EXIF data for any of these images, so I don't know what camera, this is like a blind critique. Right. Don't know anything about the image other than that. I don't know if it's HDR, nothing. So okay, all I got going on here is just one suggestion. If I was to critique this in my cohort with one of my apprentices, this would be one of those images. We usually rank our images from a 1 to a 3. So a number 1 image is generally an image that needs some work to it. So I have 2 or 3 suggestions that I can give. A number 2 image is really an image that just needs maybe one thing, and then it's going to be a portfolio worthy image that you can run with. And a number 3 is ready to go on the portfolio. Yeah. So this would be what I would consider an image, and my apprentices will all laugh if they're watching this. This is what I consider a 2.8. So this is one of those images that needs one thing, I think, and I wanted to show that in Lightroom. So I'm going to screen share with you. We're going to try this for the first time. We haven't done this before, so everybody just say a little prayer, and we'll see if we can get it going. You just disappeared completely from my screen, and I don't know where you went, so that's not fun.
I'm here.
I don't know if I'll be able to.
I have you full screened.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to pull that window open because it just keeps closing on me. All right, so we have here's the image from Bruce. Bruce, the only thing that I would suggest here is you really have what is known as a reflective symmetry image going on. So you have an image here that is equal on the top and the bottom. So what I've done is I've actually cropped this image a little bit. I'm going to get this to play along here. Hit that button. There we go. All right. So what I did was I cropped this into a longer, more panoramic crop. Okay. And all I did was balance the top of the image with the bottom of the image here. You've got the rock spaced out nicely and everything's balanced well there. It's just a little too much information on the top and the bottom. And you were kind of saying that with the vignette that you had on the image, where you're darkening the top and darkening the bottom is like, please look at the middle of my image. Mm-hmm. Well, if you crop it, you can still have a little bit of that vignetting going, which is okay. But what a wider crop like this does is gives a more cinematic feel and really just boosts the whole epicness of the shot. So we were so close with it. And I think just a simple crop here, get rid of some of that information on the bottom that doesn't really matter. I think this, for me, the beautiful little like kind of sand wave going on here is nice. And that leads well into the image in the sunset here. And one of the comments was, I keep going to the big rock. I keep going to the big rock. I saw this last night. And it is totally true. It's in the thirds. The sun in the rock there. The image is a little bit light in the shadows. On my monitor, I can actually see a little bit of the definition in the rock in here. And I probably, if you're going for that silhouette, you might want to just use a little adjustment brush in that area if you're using Lightroom and just dabble it around in that area and then bring your exposure down so you complete that silhouetted. We don't want to, have people kind of leaning in going, what's in there? What's in there? Because when they stand back and see the image as a whole, that's where they're really going to get the impact of it. So just simple suggestions like that, but it's an absolutely great image, and I would again say that with nothing more than the crop, I think you're looking at a portfolio image here for sure.
Very nice. And one thing I brought up yesterday, this is where I mess up in my review. Let me switch back to.
I'm sorry, I went real. That's the timing, Mike. So if I'm sorry, I caught you off guard, didn't I?
That's okay. That's my job to get us back in line. I had said something about the having the horizon right in the middle, mm-hmm. and whether that was okay or not. And then I remember you telling us about having three images, three things in the image. He's got the three, but I actually would have liked this, and I know you can't do this without photoshopping it. Would have liked to not have those other two items in there. But that's pushing it too far, you think?
I think, well, if it was any place other than Haystack, I would tend to agree with you. You probably, because this rock is kind of like the centerpiece, the big one is the centerpiece there, you probably could get away with it. My issue there would be, where would the sun be at that point? Would you want to wait until after the sun was completely down? Because if he did go with maybe a portrait crop here, which Tim did recommend, mm-hmm. If you did go that way, I always like to go. So that's one of the things I love to do with images. I love to just like totally change the crop completely. I mean, like go to a portrait from a landscape and the other way around, just to see what kind of impact I get from the image. Okay. And I think that would have worked. It kind of would have just made like a shot with a big oval hole in the middle of it, though, for me. And so I like the interest of the three rocks here. I think if would I do something different? Sure. I think everybody's going to do something different. But if Bruce's his goal was to show the silhouette of the rocks with the beautiful sun behind it and the reflection, then I think he nailed his goal there. Very well. And whenever we're dealing with reflective symmetry is when we have a reflected item in the bottom that matches the top. It is perfectly okay to put your horizon dead center to show, to remove the horizon from the equation, or the foreground background balance is brought back there. So
okay. It sounds like also, if I'm hearing this right, is be careful about editing out things or doing too much manipulation on a famous location, a location that is very a lot of people are going to know about it. Yeah,
always think shoot differently there. But editing, I don't know. I think I wouldn't edit anything out. Like, for instance, I want content aware those other two rocks out of there. People are instantly going to be like, hey, what are those other two rocks?
To the other rocks?
Right. Well, I mean, people know the location, right? It'd be like going to Mount Rushmore and taking 2 presidents out because you didn't like them, and it's okay to take a photo of one of the presidents, I guess. And that would be okay with this rock, but I would probably compose it differently. Might even hide the sun behind the haystack and make a halo out of it, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, there's different ways you can go there, but I don't know as you could crop this image to make that happen. So that's why it wasn't on my suggestion list.
Well, great image, Bruce, and it sounds like you're almost there, 2.8.
I don't dare give Bruce Lee any other mark other than that.
All right, next up is Charles Bush, and let's see what Charles had to say. Charles gave a little bit of feedback. I don't know if this is what you were looking for, but this is what Charles had to say. To me, this photo just screams the beginning of summer. The old boat and the canoe are sitting at the ready. All you need are fishing poles and a cooler.
So I love it when people give me stuff like this because A, it tells me what they were thinking when they took the shot. That's awesome. That gives me a starting point. So now I'm not like, oh, geez, I wish you shot this in autumn or this or that. To me, it says that, he's like getting that feeling for summer. That's cool. And so he decided to pull the trigger on this because it gave him that feeling. He wanted to portray that for other people. So that's a great starting point. The rest of his sentence, though, the old boat and the canoe sitting at the ready, all you need are fishing poles and a cooler. Amen. You don't have that.
Yes.
So to me, it's one of those shots that comes down to, are we talking about like we weren't there at the exact moment that we needed to be? It doesn't scream summer to me. It isn't quite there, I don't think. I don't know. This was one that I cropped as well, and I put the canoe like right in the thirds, and I got rid of some of the lily pads in the bottom, and I really made it. The big thing for me, the distraction in this shot, is the trees in the lower right going into the lily pads. That forms a triangle in the corner of contrast. So when we have a triangle of contrast in one corner, we tend to, our eyes keep going down there. One of the best things you could do when you're looking at an image is try to find out if your eyes are bouncing around the image. If your eyes are bouncing around, then try to find out if your eyes are bouncing around in a pattern. If your eyes are bouncing back and forth between two items, that's not good. So, we have another image where this happens, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on. But it's one of those things where then you have a conflict of subject in the image, and we want to eliminate that, simplify, really make the story easy to understand for the viewer. I think if you crop this up from the right and you put the canoe more in the lower third, so the third right-hand third, lower-hand third, and you leave the empty space of the lake out there, that brings forth a feeling of, I want to run over there, I want to get in that canoe and head out to the lake. That's your story. Processing's great on this. I like everything about it. It's just, to me, it's almost there. It's another image. It comes down to a crop and framing, and remembering that we're telling a story to other people who don't know, I'm not going to think fishing pole cooler missing there. I see a canoe and a flipped over boat next to what looks like an old lake or a pond.
Yeah.
And bring it down and make it a little bit more personal. And I think then people relate a little bit more to it. So yeah. Simple crop there.
Yeah, you gave a lot more detail than I did. For me, there was a lot of distractions with all the stuff on the right-hand side below the boat, the area you were talking about. So my eyes did go there. And then the other area it went to was past the boats. There's a dark area there. I don't know if I'm looking on my screen, or whether that's another log or just a shadow that's running horizontal to the water's edge.
Yeah, that's like a little part of looks like the bank that's collapsed into the water there a little bit. Yeah,
those were where my eyes mainly went, and then naturally that's where it went. It didn't go to the boat at all, actually. But that's some great feedback. I think maybe for some of that would have been better off coming at it from a different angle, because if you just did a crop, I think that tree that's sort of above the canoes would have covered it up.
Yeah, and here we have a subject of a green canoe on the background of green grass with a green lake. And you have basic tones here, the yellow greens and the color of the lake, and the yellows in the kind of burned out grass. But the boat is kind of like a clashing green. So here's a little Photoshop, a little Lightroom action in there, and you can even change the color of that boat a little bit to kind of complement the scene a little bit more.
I was thinking that if you more like a little bit of a faded red or something like that.
Something, yeah. It's just one of those things where, I get the scene and I totally get it. But as far as like tonality goes for the image, it doesn't work. It isn't a strong point of the image. Okay. It's a nice scene, and it's one of those things. Hey, here's the thing, Charles. If this is someplace that you're near or around often, make it your subject practice. One of the things that photographers don't do, and this is a carryover from the film days, they don't practice. They get a camera, they learn about the things, and they sit at home, they learn things, they read the manual, they go out in their yard to take a few shots, and then they go on vacation and they try to bring home amazing award-winning photos and get discouraged or don't accomplish that. We need to go out every day and practice. There's no reason why not to. Digital cards are, they aren't like film. Yep. And we can do this. We have this luxury now of being able to practice. So if it's a location that's close to you, definitely use it for that. It's a good image. I like it. I think it just needs just a little bit more of that practice, and you're going to have it. So
very good. Okay, next image up. I actually like this image, and this was by Dara Soria. I'm horrible with names. If I messed up your name, which I'm sure I did.
Yeah,
sorry.
Dara Soria.
She didn't not give us much information here, AD. Just 12 millimeters, f2.8, Canon 6D. So that's about it that she gave us as far as information.
Well, shooting in the dark, man, 2.8, 12 millimeter, and everything seems to be in focus. Incredible. So, I mean, even stuff in the background that should be bokeh out pretty good at 2.8 looks pretty good. Although 12 millimeter, when you're going that wide, you do have a lot of luxury of depth of focus there. And I'm sure she went that 2.8 because of the light, because what you're dealing with. So let's talk about strong points. I really love the high contrast black and white. I am a huge, I can't even tell you how big of a fan I am. If you go look at my pages, I love high contrast black and white. In fact, I shoot a lot of it in JPEG, just right out of the camera.
Wow.
There's a setting on the Sony cameras called high contrast black and white, and I just shoot it. And I love it. I just go out. I don't have to process the image. They come home and they're done. So I'm really digging that. I think that the thing here is I like the silhouetted smoke. I think further processing a little bit. I'm not a big fan. I will tell you, I'm not a big fan of images where the subject is directly in the center. And because there's things going on both sides, I'm tending to look beyond her. I'm looking, I see the smoke, and I'm kind of like, wow, look at those lights in the air, and look at the window silhouettes. And then her contrast is kind of low. So she's almost like not there. And if that's the goal here, if the goal is to make her kind of inconsequential to the scene, and she's just kind of like, I'm just here and I'm not consequential. If that's what she's trying to portray, then you're good with this. I think that balance works out really well. If it, you're trying to highlight her as a model with the smoke and the scene and give it kind of this dark film noir kind of look, I would probably move her to the right. And I would have had those silhouetted windows coming out away from the smoke from her. So if you changed your angle, if you moved more to the left, and that would put her into the right, you'd have those silhouetted windows leading out into the scene, which that scene in the background is very abstract and looks like dreaming or space. I know it's like an old warehouse, but it's just got that look to it. That would be the story, right? That through the smoke and things but that's my story. I don't know, and that's where that's where it's really important to offer up. I love the camera settings. I wish we could get EXIF data on everything. That gives us a little bit more to talk about, but mostly important to me is what were you going for here, so that I can kind of comment on that and help you get further to that. It's a lovely image. The processing's great. I would probably accentuate her contrast a little bit more and make her more important, but that would be if I was going for, a different image, a different story behind the image. So,
Yep. No, that's important to know. That's why we ask for that stuff. Hey, I would like to take one little break here and highlight your webpage.
Uh-oh, don't do that.
AD's webpage. It's over at theexplorographer.com. And is that where the best place for people to keep track of you, AD, is over there or somewhere else?
Well, I was just on WordPress for Photographers, a really cool podcast yesterday, and they asked me that same question. And yes, I've taken kind of a big 180 from the social media. Everything branches from my website now outwards. So the website is the guaranteed, will always be there. You'll always be able to find my stuff there. If Facebook goes away someday or Twitter goes away or whatever, you can always go to my website and find me. So yeah.
I think that is actually a great tip for photographers too, is have a home base that you can control. You can't control Facebook, you can't control Twitter, you can't, Google Plus was the hot thing for a while and it's not so hot as anymore. Having your own home base that is your website is a great tip. While you're there, I would head over to his Photo Tools store and look at the stuff we have there. Last month we gave away a prize. I think we're going to give away another prize this month to a random person. So be sure to head over to AD's website. We'll have the link in the show notes, but it is theexplorographer.com and do that. All right. So next up we have Daryl Harrington.
Yes.
With a Navy airplane. Yep. Naval airplane.
Yeah, I think this is a Thundercat or Thunderbolt, something like that. Yeah, this is an awesome shot. It's it looks to me like it was cropped quite a bit. I'm looking at the notes that he left on this. It says Daryl says that the weather didn't cooperate, which it looks pretty nice.
Yeah, it does.
Pretty nice out there. But the Rhode Island Air Show is just too much fun not to go. And I totally agree. I love air shows. I love planes. Love World War II planes. Oh, my gosh. It's like one of my favorite things ever to see, to hear. Nothing sounds like them. And if you ever get a chance to go see them fly, it's absolutely amazing. It looks like quite a bit of a cropped image to me. I'm not able to zoom in at all on it to get really get a close look. And I can definitely see the dude flying. I think that's great. I think this would be one of those photos that the pilot would like to have. Yeah. Right? This would be one of those things where I'd find my way to that dude's webpage and I'd be like, hey, man, you want a picture of this? I can make this into a print for you. But I think that it portrays everything there. You're right. The skies are kind of like, they're not really helping you out a little bit. I will tell you that the Lightroom adjustment called dehaze can help you in that department like you would not believe. Even where you can't see clouds, sometimes if you need a little bit of drama behind your photos, try the dehaze slider. Now, don't go crazy with it because it can really mess up your shot. But I've had shots where the sky looked a lot like this, and you hit that dehaze slider a little bit, and boom, you've got some sort of clouds kind of acting as a base behind. It goes, again, I'm going to talk a little bit about its dead center. And I'm not a big fan of dead center. Now, this is just me. This is a really good like wall hanger shot for the guy who flies the plane. So if I'm doing a shot for him and it's dead center and I've got nothing to put him, like I don't have any background to shoot him against while he's landing or flying or another plane going by or anything like that. If I don't have any of that kind of stuff, this is that shot. It's kind of like what we'd consider like a portrait shot or a headshot, when we're doing headshots. So that would be what I would see the purpose of this photo for. Otherwise, if we are going for a shot from an air show, what makes me want to go to this air show to see the Rhode Island Air Show from your shot? I'm not going to look at the guy and go, well, this guy, they fly with their canopies open, so I definitely want to see that. Yeah. You got to show me smoke. You got to show me, a couple of planes flying close. That's the sort of thing I think that if you're portraying the air show and you want to really make people go to this event as an event photographer, which I do a lot of, it's really important to bring to the people the reason why they want to go to this event too. That's what your event people are going to want to see. If you're putting, as part of a blog post or something, this photo would work fine. It would work fine as a, hey, I went to the air show and it was great to see these old planes and all that kind of stuff. That works great. But yeah, as far as like drama goes in the image and that sort of stuff, I'd want to see some other stuff to go along with this, some background, some taking off, some flying explosions, Michael Bay it up a little bit.
Do you ever worry about cropping too much? And if your end purpose of the image is a print or to give to someone that they're going to print, do you ever worry about cropping it too much?
Well, I shoot with a 42 megapixel camera.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot of leeway there.
Because of my shortcomings. That's why I do that. No, it's one of those things. Noise in situations. The internet is awesome, but the one thing with the internet is that we can look at a photo and be like, oh, it's an amazing photo, but if you blew it up to print, you realize that it's either noisy or it's out of focus. And on the internet, it looks great, or on your phone or whatever. And with cropping, that's one of the things. Here's the danger in cropping. I'll give you a scenario that other people have kind of experienced. You put a post on your Facebook page. This guy is out searching on Facebook for the Rhode Island Air Show and happens to see you come up in his feed and clicks on the photo. He goes, oh man, this guy got a picture of me looking at the camera. I want this on my wall. I want this on my
20
wall.
by 30.
24 by 36 or bigger.
Yeah.
And you can't provide it.
Yeah.
And you just missed, a $600-700 sale, or even still, you missed a good opportunity to kind of get in that business. So you got to be careful with cropping. If you're going to shoot events, the very minimum, I'm going to tell you and a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this. The very minimum that you're going to want to shoot high-speed events like this, rodeo, planes, running, marathons, that kind of stuff, is a 70 to 200 2.8. And that's the minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, you are really got to work with that lens to get the shots that you need.
And I should say because we don't have EXIF data, we don't really know how much cropping he did here.
Right.
What Lindsay does, but we're just talking about in general.
Yep.
I grew up, not grew up, but I shot a lot of soccer with a 4 megapixel, Nikon D2H. Yep. And there was you could not crop because we needed everything we got in case somebody ordered a large print. Yep. So you had to do your best you could to get it, framed right.
Yep.
All right. So that was Daryl. Now up next is Debbie Henry. It looks like a dying rose. And didn't she have some feedback for us?
Yes. Yeah. She said it's summer in Florida and she was taking a steamy morning walk. That's interesting. In my recovery. So that's okay. I get that. And she finds herself feeling like this flower most mornings. That's not great.
Well, I think Debbie is coming off of a health issue. Hopefully she's getting better.
Hopefully. For sure.
Yes, hopefully she's getting better. And so that's probably where she's, often when you have a big health event, the depression or the mental part of it is afterwards in the recovery stage.
Yeah, and you relate to a lot of things that you normally didn't before. I totally understand that for sure. I think that I totally get that. I think this is an image, though. It's one of those images that, again, if you're putting it with a blog or something like that, I think that it relates well with the written word. And she did that with that, and she did portray that in the goal. As far as the way the image is taken, I think everything's good here. I'm not sure. There was some sort of pole or fence or something in the bokeh behind. If you're going to use a lens with a shallow depth of field, always be conscious when you're looking through the viewfinder at how that bokeh is designing your background. I'm forever in my garden shooting all of the time. In fact, there's a whole spree of them on my Facebook page right now where I'm just having a blast. And when I'm taking the shots, there's out of the 5 or 6 that I post, there's probably 35 or 40 of them that I don't post, either for focus issues or that the background, is bokeh out and it makes some sort of design or something that doesn't complement the foreground. Mm-hmm. So that's really important here. And this is kind of like you got a vertical line like going right through the middle of the image. And I would like to see maybe, start thinking about this a little bit, Debbie, but start thinking about, like, if you saw a flower like this, putting it with another flower that might be getting better or looking a little bit better, and kind of making that, because hope you're going to submit some more images, and you're on the good road to recovery.
Yep.
It's a tough image to critique. I can't really put the personal things in behind it. So I have to just critique it for what it is. This is what I was talking about earlier with two objects in the image. I go back and forth between the leaves and the flower, and the leaves and the flower, and the leaves and the flower, and the leaves and flower, and then I'm kind of like, I'm done at that point. So that's what happens when we have two competing subjects. I think the story here for her, again, hey, crop, the single flower, you could crop this down to the single flower, and you have the story, the same story without the leaf.
Wait. Let's get that straight. So just the red rose part of it?
Yeah. Let's let me demo. Let me do a demo. We haven't done one of those in a minute.
We haven't.
Let's see if we can screw this up.
Well, I know.
Bear with us, folks. Bear with us, folks. All right. So click that. Your screen goes away. Bring you back so I can see you. All right. Okay. So
I gotta do it. Hold on 1 second.
Do you see it?
I do, but I need to set something up a little bit different.
Mike's doing tricks in the background. So while he's doing that, I would probably lock the overall aspect ratio of this, and seriously just bring this down to the single flower. I think this still tells the story.
Oh, now I see what you're saying. Yeah. And
to me, what happens is now I'm not bouncing. Now I'm kind of feeling the sadness behind the image.
What if you included the hook part, the top part of the?
Well, it's kind of hard to do, because if I do that, who appears back in the image? So So in that case,
you'd have to
she
make
was
a weird
dead
angle.
on. Yeah, she was dead on with her crop. So she did that right. The only other thing that we could do here is throw this over into Photoshop, and I could take this leaf right out.
Okay.
So that's some editing stuff to work on. But hey, when we're in recovery, sometimes tasks like that and learning to do something like that is a very good way to get your mind off all the other junk that you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So it might be a thing where, content aware removal, or using the heal tool with this, you could easily remove this other leaf and make this really just this stem coming out with the single flower. And then you might be able to go with a square crop or something, that kind of fits the image, takes a little bit more of the negative space out of here, I think. It's still going to get me, though, with the single line
right
through the back. There are some things you could do with that. You can use an adjustment brush, and you can put it on the auto mask feature, and you can go down through this and hit this in all these spots. And sometimes you can actually bring those highlights down in the back, so there's a little less contrast there. So you can kind of bring that down.
That helps quite a bit. Just that right there. Well, starting to get a little that weird grayness that happens when you go too far, when you push something really far.
Sure, but I'm not done yet.
Oh, okay.
So if you continue, you could see that as you continue to do this, you could actually, like, you have this part right here that's definitely looks different. So one of the cool things that you can actually do with Lightroom is you can target certain colors for adjustment, which I really like that a lot. And that's the HSL settings. So we can go to the saturation here in the greens, and we could actually pull those down. We could actually take just the luminance of the greens and pull those down if we want to. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you could do to the background to kind of make this blend all together better. You can actually recolor this spot too. So I can actually come in here and I can put in my own color, I can start all over, and then I can recolor. Here's a trick that a lot of people don't know in Lightroom. If you have the eyedropper on the little palette here, if you click and hold on that and then drag it over to your photo, it will actually select the color in the photo. So once you do that, you can then move the slider to color that however you want in that area. So we can go through and paint this all in and kind of balance this out. Now I'm just doing it really quick here.
Right.
So it's kind of rough shot, but there are editing, things that you can do to kind of take that out of there. And just, it doesn't need to be completely gone. It just needs to be subdued a little bit.
De-emphasized, yeah.
De-emphasized. Yep. So let's put this back to the way it was. There we go.
Well, that's some good ideas. Yeah. And especially when you snap it back to the original, you said you just spent a couple minutes demoing what possibilities there were. When you undid it, it snapped back and you really notice that white line now.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes the thing is when we're doing the edits, we compare it to what we saw originally. So we think, oh, that doesn't look right. But then you show it to somebody else and they're like, oh, that's awesome. Like, and you say like, do you notice the white line? And they're like, white line? I don't see any white, they don't even know. So yeah. And I think it's more about the contrast. Even if you change that whole thing to green, rather than just taking the color out, you could actually change it all to a green tone. You change the whole background to a greener tone, and all of a sudden you don't have these dividing lines in your background, and then your subject kind of will stand out more on the front.
All right, that's some good stuff there. So let's cut over to the next one while AD does his thing to get his video back. This next one is one of the 3 finalists. The first one was Bruce Lee. Was one of our finalists, and then now this one here from Gina Perry.
Yeah, really like this image a lot.
And she gave us a lot of information.
Yeah, we got exactly what she used on the camera, and then she wrote a little bit about. She said this is her cat. Got that one. I got that part. And well, you might be stalking cats out in the street. I don't know, Gina. I don't know. I haven't known you that long.
Yeah.
She said she liked this crop because she wanted much of the detail to show as possible. She finds this fascinating because the individual hairs that are showing, I like that too. It's very tack sharp in that area. It said she had to bump the ISO a little bit because it was a dull day. And let's see, she was in a shaded part of the garden. So this is all great information, by the way. She composed the crop with the rule of thirds in mind, and then realized that the left eye is not fully in focus, but it doesn't bother her personally. And I have to agree with that. I think if that was in focus, then we wouldn't get that shallow depth of field kind of look to it, which kind of makes it intriguing. And I think it also keeps us focused on the one eye. I think it's fascinating, the detail in the eye even. She likes the hairs, which I think is cool, but for me, it's the detail in the eye. And then it's the toning as well. I would love to see this image in black and white with a higher contrast. Just simply to take the color out of it, to see what it would do. Sometimes we talk about if we take the color out of an image, we reduce the image to just its soul. So sometimes when I'm looking at an image and I'm trying to evaluate it, I'll take the color out just to see how powerful it is without any toning, because toning is a thing all in itself. She has great toning here, by the way. Everything kind of blends together well. I think, Gina, if I had one suggestion for the image, I would pull in the crop a little bit on the left. The line moving up next to the ear kind of is this unbalanced sort of thing. So I would bring that in just a little bit so that line wasn't going up right on the left-hand side, the upper left there.
So you have like the cheek all the way up against the line?
Yeah, I think it's, let me pull in her image here real quick. I have it loaded up since we're doing this everywhere pretty much. Yeah, see, it's doing a full screen thingy on my image right now. I don't have that's weird. Okay, yeah, I got a light in my face too, so sorry. I'm trying to deal with that. I look like an idiot when I'm looking at the screen, but
no one's seeing you right now.
That's me most of the time anyway, so all right. Okay, so you guys are seeing her image?
No, I'm not.
You're not. Oh, I gotta hit that other button too. All right, there we go. I was too enamored with getting my screen back every time it goes away. So I think the only thing I would do here, it's very minor, but the distraction of that upper corner, I think I'd want the ear to really be right at the point of that corner, and take that kind of little line that's blurred out in the back. I'd take that out of there, because I'm seeing, like on my monitor, I see I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there's a line going up the left-hand side of the top here, which is like the cheek line, but then part of the bokeh out hair in the background. It just looks odd with the ear there in that kind of look is distracting. It takes me a bit away from the eye. So by moving that over, you're kind of just, you're zeroing in on the face, and it brings you even closer to those amazing eyes. So yeah, I like this image. I have to say, out of all the images, I don't mean to like precursor anything that we're going to be doing coming up, but this was my favorite out of all of the images. I'm sorry, internet. It's a cat image, I know. And it's not because I don't like cats. So I'll just tell you that right up front. I'm not a big cat guy. I like dogs. I'm a dog guy. I know, why can't we like both? But I don't like cats. But I like this image of a cat. So.
No, I am the same way, actually. I'm not a cat fan. I'm a dog fan, always on dogs. But I believe I can't give away my voting. I shouldn't give away my voting. This was one of my favorites, too. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think so for me, one of the image things that I really like, I'm just messing with Gina's image here a little bit. One of the things that I really like a lot out there today is I see a lot of reduced spectrum black and white, where we're dealing with almost just black and just white together to make the image. And so that's kind of what I was talking about when I saw this image. I wondered what it would look like with this stark, contrasty, real high contrasty black and white. But I think the image works both ways, and the tones are really great. The cat's color is wonderful, and the light was good. Good job on taking it in the shade. If you're doing portraits out there, shade. Stay away from that sun and nose shadows and all that kind of stuff. Shade is your friend. Diffused light if you can, or reflected light. So some of the easiest portrait setups I've ever used is just going out with natural light, but having someone hold a simple disc reflector to bounce some white light into the scene a little bit to light it with that, and then shooting natural light that way. Just you end up with the nice soft shadows and everything, which Gina has done a wonderful job here with that.
I'm not sure now which one I like better. I do like the colored version a lot, though. I think I prefer the colored one over this one slightly.
Yeah, and so for me, it's this is one of those things where I'm just to send the point home of always check your images in black and white as well as color. If you're wondering about how much the color is affecting your overall power of the image, and if it's not affecting your image, and you look at the black and white and you still want a color image, think about grading the photo so that you can get that color palette the way that you want to.
Yeah.
So
very good. All right, up next is who's this? I'm going to mess up this name. Lakesh LR.
Uh-oh. Lokesh.
Lokesh.
And I'm not. Lokesh Lightroom. That's
Okay.
what I'm going to call him.
There you go.
What better name? I mean, right?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. If that's what it stands for. So he says, since last month there is no theme, thought I will post the latest pic, which I took yesterday, the royal entrance of the University of Mysore in India.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, a cool subject right off the bat. A nice night image, long exposure here. Long exposure images are tough to do at night with traffic. So in this image, the thing that I see is that there were some vehicles moving through the image that the photographer captured. Do they lend to the image though? That's where I'm at with it. And they don't do anything for me. They distract me a little bit. I'm looking at them wondering, what was that, a car? Was that something? And then at that point, I realize in my head, I'm focusing on the wrong thing. He captured the building at night. Right. Okay. Yep. So that's how when I look at an image like this is how I kind of think about it. So he, his thing was, it's the royal entrance to the university. So you're capturing that, right? Or are we capturing cool lights going around, and trying to make it into a ghostly image? That's fine if you're going to do that. But like it looks here like this was like a multi-image. I'm looking at the center of the image, and I'm seeing like. It's really strange because it looks like a car was moving at like these increments or something in the middle with the wave going on.
Yeah, I don't know if that is either. I'm just now
and
noticing it that now that you mention it.
yeah, and there was a light that, of a vehicle. So here's a top tip for anybody who's shooting at night and you don't want light trails, or you do want light trails and you want to manipulate them a little bit more. Take and set up your camera, compose your shot, get it exactly the way you want to, and shoot for about an hour. And just shoot the same shot for an hour. Every few minutes or so, take another shot. Every few minutes, take another shot. When you get home, you're going to have the building and everything else that's static in the image will not move. You can load all of those into Lightroom, and then you can put light exactly where you want it by using layers and erasing certain things. So if a guy walks in the middle of your scene and stands there in one frame and he's not in the next, you can just totally erase him, and you'll have all of that image data that was behind him that you can reveal then. And then you end up with what you wanted here, which was a picture of the actual royal entrance and not, people moving around it and that sort of thing. I think it's one of those things where if you're going to have people in the scene, I need to see people or ghostly people. If I'm going to have cars, I'm going to need to see more of the lights. They're kind of hidden almost in this image. I had to look really close, and then that's when I realized that I'm focused more on them than I am the actual entrance to the place. I think the framing too, I'm not sure, I've never been here. If this was a little bit more, maybe less foreground in this image, and I would have liked to seen the rest of the arch on the right-hand side.
I was thinking the same thing. Yep.
Yeah. And so with that, once you've got all of that in there, and I don't know what software you have that you're using, but if you have Lightroom, the new vertical uprights is awesome. And you just basically can put a couple of uprights on this and you can straighten your building right up. Mm-hmm. It's leaning to the right now. And one of the things that happens whenever we lean anything in an image, even if it's a very little bit, it creates tension in the image. It was a film technique that was used to create tense situations by turning the camera sideways. And a lot of times it was used in situations where, kind of the subject matter wasn't good enough to kind of make the image. So they turn the camera, and that's that lends it. And if you're not getting it, you're going to get it now. When
create
I turn
some artificial tension.
Artificial tension, yeah, pretty much. And so, and we can do that with colors too. We can do that with palettes and whatnot. But anytime you have a landscape image and you have buildings, unless it's the Leaning Tower of Pisa or it's definitely supposed to be leaning, please make sure your images and horizons are straight so that you take it out of the equation. That's going to allow people to enjoy your image just that much more. So it's a very interesting location. I hope you can get back there and do some more shooting there. And I'd love to see, some more. This is, I love seeing places I've never been. It's so cool.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Next up is Michael. He's it was the third one of the finalists. He wasn't number 3, but he was the third finalist that we had for this month. He also was the winner last month of your, one of your Lightroom presets.
Yes.
And he texted me, said he's already been using them, and I think you had some critique for him, some ways where he could have re-edited his photo that he submitted last month. So he did. He edited his photo and actually put it back up in our group, I believe.
Nice. Very cool. Awesome. Michael, thanks so much for submitting again. Beautiful image here. Oneida Falls. I'm not really sure where this is at, but if that's Oneida as in like you're in New York, I'm not sure. Do you know? Mike,
I don't.
He's from New York?
I don't know where he's from. I can maybe. Is there Oneida Falls there?
But there might be. There's lots of falls in New York. Well, I just was going to say, Michael, get a hold of me, man. We shoot all over New York, and we'd love to have you come out. And we're doing a photo walk in Albany next month. So if you're up in that area, in the Oneida area, definitely look us up and come hang out. That's I learn more by hanging out with people than I do even at these critique thingies. So just going to throw that out there. This is a lovely image. It's a very classic shot of a waterfall. I like everything about it except, Mike, that the waterfall's right in the center. Yeah, it's a targeted shot. I would put it in the left probably because the water flow is to the right and show a little bit of the water flowing away from the waterfall.
Okay. Yep.
This is another image though, or another place where, man, I see 1,000 compositions here. Just so many different ways to shoot this little waterfall. And like I see these the waterfall coming down in threes here over on the left side of this, with this beautiful long exposure that he's captured here of the water. And you could do a total, just a framed shot just around that alone would be gorgeous, with that water just bouncing off the rocks.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great shot. It's well exposed. I like the processing on here, the vignetting, keeping us really focused on the center of the image. But to lend power, you really need to. I would probably step back a little bit from this and give it a little bit more room to breathe. It's very difficult, again, without being there. Sometimes you can actually get closer and change your angle of view, so you could squeeze that waterfall together a little bit more. If you didn't want to do that, one of the suggestions I would make is I actually threw this in Lightroom, and I made a horizontal perspective adjustment to this, because it's a little. The foreground is nice and balanced, so he's got a nice, basically even foreground, although it's a little wider on the left. The kind of horizon there, which is not actually a horizon. It just means that he wasn't square on to the waterfall, which is okay. But when people are shooting shots like this, I always tell them either move more to the left so that you're really exaggerating that angle, right? You're making that epic look, or put it dead on and remove that from the look at all. But when you're right in the middle of that, it's kind of like almost abstract and almost symmetrical. They don't work.
They don't work.
They're not. Yeah. So what I did is I played around with this in Lightroom. I didn't do much. You got a lot of images this time around. I got to say, a lot of images that just one little simple thing is all it is. And so overall, all of these images are excellent, by the way. When I can only come up with one thing for you, you're.
Well, the theme tonight is all about the crop.
All about that crop. So yeah, so this one is not so much about the crop, but is just there is a little bit of cropping going on. Are you seeing that?
Yes, I'm seeing it. Yep.
Double click that time and it worked. All right. So all I did with his image was very simple. Just made a simple horizontal adjustment. So I am going to constrain the crop, so it does get in there. And when you put the grid lines up, when you hover over here, you can see these grid lines. And you can see here, if I move, you won't be able to see it. But if you look at the grid lines through the bottom of the waterfall, you can see that the what I'm talking about, the horizon kind of curves around and dips down a little bit. And then the top of the waterfalls kind of move up a little bit in the scene. So all I did to balance that was simply to change the horizontal perspective to +12. So you'll see a difference here when I do this. So that's all there is to it. Now I'm starting to bring in the two to make them more balanced on the top. This curvature over here equals the curvature over on the left side. So it balances between those two, and the bottom enters and exits the same. What that effectively does to the viewer is removes any sort of distortion to the overall scene from being a distraction, and allows them just to enjoy the photo, even the area and the location even more. So.
All right, very good.
It's an excellent image. It was number 2 on my list, by the way.
Number 2 on your list.
Yeah, nice job.
Nice job, Michael. All right.
That's a 1 and a 2 in 2 weeks. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice going.
And next up is Millen. And Millen has got...
You're not going to... Wait a minute. What's the rest? Mike, where's Millen, right. Vaskov,
I think
Mladinov?
You know what? If this is who I'm thinking it is, I think he submitted last month, but with a different name that was even harder for me to pronounce. And I got it wrong. He was very, very, very awesome. Nice about it. He posted on our YouTube page that, yes, I think he said I got it wrong. But he said, don't worry about it. It was fine. But Millen, Vaskov,
Mladinov. There you go.
Hopefully I got at least the first name right. Millen.
Close enough. All right. So he's got some information for us. That's awesome.
Yes.
It says here that the photo was taken on a Nikon D3200 and processed in Lightroom. He's not sure the exact name of the flowers, but they were a small yellow flower. Yes, we got that. All right, cool. So this one, again, it's all about being right in the middle. You do a little bit with the crop or do a little bit with the positioning of the flowers, because it's a very matter of fact, very snapshot. It's a good snapshot, but it basically there's no story in the composition. We have 3 flowers. They're pretty. and that stops right there. We don't have much of a negative space. We have negative space on the left and the right, and they're competing with each other, right? That's that back and forth thing.
He did get the idea of 3, though.
Yes, absolutely. So the next step for you, Millen, is now to take those 3, and this is very hard. I can tell you firsthand. I go out and shoot in the garden, like I said, all the time, and I get a bunch of shots I don't like because it's very hard to get flowers. Flowers don't grow thinking someone's going to take a picture of us in 3s. Mm-hmm. And without destroying the plant, it's, you got to do a lot of moving and angling and laying on the ground and whatever. So yeah, I think that this image is well taken, good colors, nice bokeh in the background, great settings on the camera. I think ultimately it just comes down to now take this and practice a little bit and try to get a little bit, work on your composition a little bit more with, negative space versus those 3 flowers.
Yeah, and now one thing you said, the negative space. So you'd put it. You normally, when somebody's thinking about when they'll put them to the left or to the right, it's the person or the object facing toward the negative space.
Yeah, you have to think about that, right? Because it depends on your message there.
But for a newbie, this kind of has competing things, 2 things facing opposite directions. Mm-hmm. Would I go with the left flower because it's bigger and more pronounced where it's looking? So I scoot this to the right?
I might go with 3 other different flowers.
Oh, okay.
That might be might be thinking about that. So when I said like when we said at the beginning of the broadcast that it's a dinner with many courses. So that's just part of it. The next step for Millen is to now take his 3 flowers and kind of put them in, the rule of thirds now. So you got 3 flowers and the rule of thirds. You can go with 5 flowers. It's odd numbers really is what we're looking for. Yep. And then, maybe the next step is we talk about a little bit about why they're facing this might be for another show. Mm-hmm. When you have a subject in a negative space, does it mean one thing when they're facing the space and one thing when they're facing away from it? So yeah, or when they're straight on too. So yep. Okay.
All right. Next up is Tom Sadlin. He entered last month. I remember that. And Tom is really new to digital SLR photography, new photography itself. He's fairly new to this.
Cool. Awesome, Thomas. Well, you're starting in the garden. This is what I love. My girlfriend maintains an unbelievable garden. I mean, it's just unreal. We've got wildflowers from all over the place. We have butterflies. We've got it's like heaven for me if I want to take a new lens outside and practice with it. And that's, anybody who wants to practice, flowers are great. They don't move very fast usually unless there's a wind blowing. So you're pretty much, you can control them. You can actually position them without damaging them pretty good. So you've got a good subject. I always treat flowers like they're a person for portraits. I always want to think about putting a flower in a portrait situation. So when I'm out there shooting, that's my goal, is to highlight it like it's, I'm giving some background environment along with the flower, and it's enjoying that environment. So here's a good case. We have a single flower with a little bit of a second flower in the screen as well. This would be an ideal image for a close-up square crop, I think, just simply because it's the flower is right in the middle, and obviously you're learning your camera, Thomas, so you're focusing with that center focus and you're snapping the shot, which is what we learned to do first, so you're on the right track there. That's perfect. And then what you'll learn to do later on, this wonderful trick where you point the camera at what you want to focus at and hold the button down halfway, and then you compose your shot, and then you press it down the rest of the way, and then your subject's in focus, and you get your composition the way you want to. And then when you load it up into Lightroom, you get totally discouraged because when you move, the focus went out. Yeah. And that just happens to all of us. So that's where the practice comes in, is learning how to move and get your second composition and still hold that focus in the plane and everything. But don't get discouraged. It's definitely, you're on the right track, and you're doing it right by submitting these images for us to talk about.
Absolutely. Shoot.
Yeah, shoot. So this is, you shot with a fairly shallow depth of field here. I do not know what it was. I have no way of knowing. I'm going to say that you were probably at f4 or less. but I don't know the focal length, so it's difficult for me to say. It looks like you're probably on a kit lens, which is fine. You're doing fine there. I would probably suggest in a situation like this to give yourself a little bit more depth of field for focusing, because we have like the middle of the flower is a little bit out, and generally when we are taking pictures of flowers, what we try to go for is the middle of the flower and then the subject matter around it in focus. So it's cradling that. And then we would have this front petal more out of focus. And here we have your focus plane is right here on the front, and then we don't really have the center of the flower in focus. So it's just a thought there of trying that out and working on that.
And you know, sometimes that may mean putting this on a tripod, right? To really lock that down?
Yeah. So when you're first practicing, tripods are always good for learning the camera. So when you're trying to learn the camera and learn the settings and what they do, I highly suggest people go out, take a flower, get it in front of the camera, get the focus, and try your different apertures and see what they do, and then compare them in Lightroom and see what the differences are. And then you're going to understand, you know, people can explain it like, oh, step down and we close the aperture down or we open it up, and it all gets so confusing because the numbers don't go the right way. I totally get all of that. Danielle, my girlfriend, she's an amazing artist. She has a website called Omnia Sub Soleil, by the way, if you want to check it out. She's very inspirational. She's learning to shoot DSLR, and I'm learning. I'm learning the things that all over again that I, take for granted now. And she doesn't, I go, so I'm trying to explain to you, ISO does this and ISO, and she's like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it is so confusing when you first start. Some people, it is natural to them, but for a lot of people, it is not. And Tom did post this one in our beginners group first, and I believe it was just shy of 3 stops underexposed. So I think putting it on a tripod, Tom, would actually help slow you down too. And you could pay more attention to that. He actually did a pretty good job of editing it with considering where it started from. So I'll give you a good, good thumbs up on that on your edit job. Really brought it from where it was. So keep practicing, keep shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Thomas the guy that's working with you?
We're in a break.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So this is I go back to when Obi-Wan tried to teach Luke, and that didn't turn out well.
Well, so here's the best part of this. Not that I'm as good as
Obi-Wan.
The absolute best part of this, Thomas, you are making the motivation and putting yourself out there for us to try to help you with publicly doing this so other people can learn as well. And I can't say enough for the opportunity. I never had, when I started in 2008, I didn't have this sort of technology that we have. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have people like willing. I had to dig for everything. I couldn't, people weren't willing to do a nice critique. They would tell you absolutely all the time what they hated about your work. Yeah. I mean, it was, and I changed my workflow and everything from that. I don't even want to call it feedback. I'll call it criticism, because that's what it was. It wasn't, people weren't saying anything with my well-being or my betterment in mind. The big thing here is not so much the image itself. It's just the fact that you're taking the motivation to bring it. So that's very cool. And I hope to see a lot more.
Yep, me too. More. Keep it up, Thomas. All right, last image is by Werner Grunberger.
Yes.
And I don't know if something happened in the transfer to image or this is just the way it is. It seems to me to be compressed. It's like its dimensions are off or something. Do you see that? Or
well, it's traditional crop. So it's an 8x10 rather than an 8x12.
But almost crop. Like instead of a crop, it was compressed without keeping the ratio. I
don't think so.
Okay. Maybe it's just me.
The flower buds look to be the right. They're not elongated enough, I don't think, and I think it's an illusion. I'll tell you that's created by the stance of the moth, and a little bit too by the bright stalk that we have on the left. And that's my main talking point here with this image. This is a great opportunity. I spent yesterday chasing butterflies all over my yard. I still do it. I still love it. It's a lot of fun. Although I did realize if you chase a butterfly, you can chase them forever. But if you stand still by where you first saw them, they always come back.
They come back, yeah.
So don't chase them.
They're not generally afraid of us.
No, they aren't. And it's pretty cool. I'm going to be releasing a story soon. I went to the Butterfly Conservatorium in Buffalo, New York. Oh man, it was freaky at first because there's like thousands of butterflies coming at you at all angles. But it was amazing, and it was so fascinating. So anyways, let's get back to this image. This is a classic example of the white balance beating you up. And what happens when we have backlit images is generally our shadows, when we try to bring them up, will end up with an over vibrant shadow, which is where the blues come in. So he's got a moth here that should be white. I have a lot of these moths that come around, these little butterfly guys, and they're definitely white on the belly. So
I would have never known that. Wow.
Yeah, this is one of those cases where you want to apply a white balance. And I think, and I played around with this a little bit in Lightroom, I think that when you select his abdomen here as your white balance, it actually warms the image quite a bit and then gives you that sun-drenched feeling. So while your white balance may have been set to auto and it picked up on the whites that were around the wing out here, that's actually not the correct place. Or this white that's on the actual wing itself, it may have picked that up as being set for the auto white. I'm not sure, but definitely these hairs and around his eye here, this is all should be white. So I think if you try that and you play around with that, you'll see that's an easy fix. And if you want, Mike, one last one here before we call it, I'll share my screen one more time and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to bring you over here in Lightroom. And generally when I'm in here, I'll play around with just using the eyedropper, and I'll pick like that spot right there. And instantly you can see that we have a much warmer image. And you also have, when you do this, you have more light to work with, by the way. So if you have an image that's generally dark and you want to brighten it up a little bit, if it's cold and you select the auto white balance and it warms it up, you'll end up with an image that has more light. Now, I ask anybody who's looking at this, they might say, well, I want it blue, blah, blah, blah. But this image to me is much warmer, much more summertime, much kind of pops a little bit more. The only other thing I would do here is grab this guy over here because it's a distraction. It is a triangle in the corner. So I would probably, one of the things that if you're
crop it, could you crop this out?
You could, but if I think the composition is fairly decent.
Okay.
I think easily to do this, basically you can click on the top, and then if you hold down Shift and you click at the other end, it'll actually remove the whole line all at once.
Oh, wow. I've never tried that.
So there you go. It was that quick and that easy to remove that out of there. And now this is one of those examples. We have him in the third. We have the negative space. He's holding his ground, looking pretty regal, like this is my flower. He's not competing with a stick. We don't want him to compete with a stick. And it's a much warmer image, so it kind of makes me think of summertime and the fact that we actually get to see these guys for that short time.
So if you hold it there, I'm going to flip back and forth between.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be a little bit different shot, but it's keep in mind you'll get the idea. So this is the before.
Oh, I was going to say I can do.
Oh yeah. Why don't you just do that then? Yeah, before and after. It is that's pretty dramatic effect.
Let's see. Get out of my presets here. All right, so we need to be right there. Okay, so this is a before. All right, and then this is after. Before.
Yeah, completely changed the green background, everything.
And what that did is when you set that Lightroom, the white balance properly, is it made the palette all fall into place.
Yeah.
So, now you don't have blues working against greens, working against yellows or whites. Or oranges or whatever. Now you've got like a nice, balanced palette there.
I think, almost Warner's the person who submitted it, almost equally to me is the fact that you got rid of the thing on the stem on the left-hand side. That had almost as big of an impact on the image to me.
Yeah, triangles
That's
of
huge.
contrast. Yeah, in any image, it's not just triangles, mind you. So they have to be contrasty. So we have a contrasty triangle in the corner over here. It's really there, big. That it will always compete with your subject. That will always draw our eye. It's a human thing. We see it. We look at it. I keep going over there, and so yeah, it actually with it gone, I'm taking in the butterfly and the nice warm sun.
To be honest, for me, when that thing was there, it was stronger in the image than the butterfly itself.
You could be right, yeah, because certain people it does have that effect on.
Yeah. But very, very good. So that's just, his basic image was, he was just a few adjustments there made a big difference. Look at that.
Yeah, you rock the focus, good composition. Again, just here's the thing, you like the back. If you like, here's the thing to try. If you love backlit scenes, and I love them, don't be afraid of the sun. Don't be afraid to move a little bit to the left here. Get rid of that stem and get maybe a sun flare in there with this. I mean, there's all sorts of play with light that you can do. I have a vintage Russian lens that's an old Zeiss lens that freaks out when you get it near the sun.
Yeah.
And most people would be like, oh, this is crap. It gets these sun flares. No, let me tell you what. Get the sun flares because they look amazing. So, yeah. So it's something, if you like backlit scenes, play with the sun a little bit. So you'll be surprised at what you get.
All right. That was the last image.
Woohoo!
So we're now, that was it. We're done. So let me go ahead and share with who did win. So remember, Gina Perry's with the cat, Bruce Lee with the beach scene, and Michael with the waterfall. Those were the three finalists, and the winner was Bruce Lee with his shot of, what was that called? Haystack. The shot of Haystack.
Yep.
So
nice.
Congratulations. So AD, I don't know, you have all the images pulled up there. We're going to exclude Michael since he won last week. Who would you pick, or do you want me to pick? Who should we give the award this month?
I think that this is your giveaway. So you pick. I'm not gonna pick. You pick.
All right.
I can pick you want me to pick what we're giving away?
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't you do that?
I think the
Lightroom thing was pretty good.
Yeah, I think the Lightroom presets are cool. I promise you guys I'm working on more content, but for now, let's do that. We'll give away the Lightroom presets again.
And I'm going to pull that up and show it to us. So if you go to AD's site and then you go to store and then Photo Tool store, he's got a number of things on sale here. So I encourage you to go check it out. That is explorographer.com/photo tool store. Go check that out. We'll have a link. We'll post it here on our Facebook page too. So we're going to give away the Lightroom preset again, like the premium Lightroom preset pack again, which was a great thing. Michael's loving using it. Let me pull us back. And you know who I think we want to give it to this month? Are you sure? Wait.
Who are you going to give it to?
Let's give it to Werner.
Okay. Awesome. We have his thing up there. What I was going to do, since we have it already up there, I was being sneaky in the background. Is I was just going to give people a little bit of a preview of what it does. One of the things with Lightroom presets is, and I make this very clear with mine especially, it's not about pressing a preset and just sending it out to the internet and going, there's my work. The whole idea about using these presets is just to kind of give you a creative nudge, and then you go in and kind of get them the way that you want. Mm-hmm. One of my favorites that I use is this high tension fade out. Does kind of a vintage grainy kind of look to the scene. There's certain images that will change it to an autumn image instantaneously. So there's a whole bunch of different types of stuff in here. We can change the actual bokeh in the image. All of that. So just use them to kind of give you ideas. And then you can take away certain things like, maybe I don't like that color or something. You can go over and fiddle with it and dial it into the way that you actually like it.
Right. You look at that as a starting point, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And sometimes when I'm stuck on an image and I'm not sure, like a lot of times when I want something critiqued, I'm not really sure if I'm hitting a home run or not. So a lot of times I'll jump into like Topaz Restyle, or I'll use my presets and I'll just start playing with them, and I'll wait till something screams at me like, oh yeah, duh, why didn't I think of doing that? You know? So that's usually what I use presets for.
Very good. All right, let me cut back to us. All right, so congratulations, Werner. And I think that fits great because he was the one we did the most editing to, and I think he had the biggest impact here. And again, AD is just spending a couple of seconds here on these, a minute or two on these. You know, if you spent more time on it, we can take it even further. But he's just giving you some ideas on what you can do with it. Great ideas this week, AD, this month.
Awesome.
Good, awesome feedback. And remember, to get this feedback on your image, you got to enter the contest. You got to enter the photo contest. And if you don't enter it, at least watch the show and hear what he's saying about other people's stuff. This is advice that you may have to pay for somewhere else. We're honored with AD spending his time, giving us his time free to do this. So thank you, AD, for another show. And I have kept you. We went over on time again. One thing I got to be careful about is Facebook will hard cut you off. Ooh. And we're
Close.
Yeah, I think we're minute. Let's see. We're 7 minutes away from a hard cutoff.
All right. Well, then we should probably say thank you and good night.
We should. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We've had people come in and out. I see Lisa Speckman's been out there. But remember to enter your photos in the contest. You have until the end of the month, so you have more than, 17 days, 18 days to do this. Get them in there. It has to be taken in July, and we do it every month. So if you can't make it this month, make it next month. The theme is open. Anything you want and taken in July. So until next month, keep shooting. Good night, everybody.